prepare to. So
Okay,
we're
we're
live.
live.
Okay.
Hmm.
So today for Miss Davis, this is our 501 nursing transformational leadership class. And today we have to discuss a case study. And the case study of our choosing was for managing an unhealthy work environment. So basically, to sum it up, we have Isabella, who is a new manager. She's been a new manager for 6 months, and it seems that there's a conflict because of scheduling. Um, looked like she gave I can't even speak right now. Sorry. Looked like she gave seniority to the older nurses for as choosing their scheduling and allowing them to choose first, and then part time, and then per diem. And it just seems like somewhere along the way there became some dysfunction between the staff, and now some of the staff members want to leave or either transfer out of the unit. And she's trying to figure out how does she resolve this. So the end of this case study, there's a few questions, and I think that we're pretty much ready to answer those and try to figure out um, what went wrong in the scenario. Do you guys agree?
I do agree.
All right. So I guess the first question was, um, what were some of the sources and possible causes of the conflict that emerged on the unit?
I think we all agree that the main issue was the self-scheduling and the fact that the seniority was had the first opportunity to schedule, followed by newer nurses, part-time per diem. So once it came down to holiday months, some of the new nurses felt it was unfair because there was no flexibility with the senior nursing staff.
Got you. And then I guess, I mean, I don't know if you guys have you guys ever experienced that as far as scheduling with trying to get time off and being pushed to the side, I guess?
No,
Um,
I
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying I've never been in a situation where self-scheduling was built off of seniority.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Ours is just set on the counter. It goes by. You're placed in the groups like A, B, C, D groups,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and each month, each schedule cycle, it rotates to which letter goes first. Well, which group
Mhm.
goes first, and that way it's fair.
Got you.
It's a constant cycle. Either it's A this month, it's B, or it's C, and then it goes from there. So we don't really, yeah, the seniority thing we don't do.
All right, well, at least you guys have some type of rotation because like the last two facilities that I've been in, it's been more of a first come, first serve. And I mean, like my last facility, I knew that I was going to go home for spring break because that's kind of like my time and the kids are off. So I would put it in a year in advance, and that was pretty much how we guaranteed our days off. It's kind of sucks sometimes, but that's just the way it
A
was. And
year?
first come, serve, yeah. I mean, you think about putting something in a year in advance. I
Yeah.
mean, are you really going to be there that whole year to even make it there?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. All right. So the next question: what were some of the signs that conflict had escalated to an unacceptable level?
Arguing in the bake room, in the break room, silent treatments, no communication, the refusal of covering shifts during break times. Um, Tony had said people quitting and other things.
So I guess for you guys, I have to ask questions. I know. Um, it makes it a little bit more interesting, right? All right. So just that happened in a scenario, how would you have dealt with it? If you were the newer nurse and you felt like you were being bullied in this situation.
I don't think I would have let it get that far. That's just speaking honestly, it's not happening. From my to me at least, it's the bullying. No, not happening.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I don't think my personality allows me to sit and be walked over. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I guess that explains why we're all sitting in the leadership class, right? I was the same way. I mean, I've been told a couple times that I have a very strong personality. I've been told a couple times that I don't have a filter, but I think I do it professionally. I say a lot of the times before I actually let the words come out because I know that sometimes I can be a little brutal, but for the most part, I try to spare people's feelings. But if you're not sparing mine, I'm not sparing yours. So that's just Pam. All right. Next, what leadership roles did Isabella assume in managing the conflict process? I guess I'll start with this one. In the conflict process for me, it looked like Isabella used more of the negotiation tactics. I saw somewhere in the passage that she decided to, what was it, develop new professional groups to conduct meetings and discuss with staff some of the things that was going on. She had them sign an agreement acknowledging their behavior and stating that they wouldn't do it again, and she implemented zero policy because she wanted everyone pretty much at the workplace to still feel safe. And she got her assistant managers involved also to ensure that everyone was on the same page. And I think for her, that was a good idea, considering that you don't want anyone to feel like they're not important because we have a very important job to do. No matter what type of unit that you work on, because nursing is all about someone's lives. So, I mean, negotiation tactic is very good at times because I guess as long as you know how to talk, you can pretty much kind of persuade people to do what
I
you
was
want
gonna
to do.
say it's good if you good at negotiating, or if they're willing to negotiate.
I, I can negotiate some contracts for some money. I don't know about anything else. We'll find out.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I just like the part where it said, like even though it was a bad situation as far as the bullying and all, she still took into account everyone's opinion on what can we do better to change the situation. And even after making the changes, it said that she had open discussions during the staff meetings on the current progress,
Hmm.
open communication, and taking everyone's consideration.
I just think she let it get too far. Period. Um, yeah, it's self-scheduling, but to a certain extent, you still have to manage the schedule. She should have still been paying attention, making sure the shifts were covered correctly. Um,
Hmm.
so I just feel from the schedule being made itself, the whole situation went way too far before she noticed. Like it had to get to an unacceptable point for her to notice that something was wrong.
I got you. That kind of goes back to like touching on number two when they asked like what were some of the signs that had escalated. Because pretty much once she found out about everything, it looked like from reading the case study that she was surprised to hear about the verbal abuse. But I
Right.
think that as good managers, you normally come in like my manager here. When she's here, she comes in and she asks us, how was your night? How is this going? And it could be 3 weeks before we see her again because she's been in and out with her husband because he has cancer. But when she's here in the office, she always comes to us and asks us like, hey, what's going on? What's new? Newest person here. How can we help you? She's always involved in making
Well,
sure that
didn't
we're
it say
happy.
something about some of her assistants, assistant managers were afraid of some of the other staff members?
Yes, and that goes into
And
the next question.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
My bad. I'm too
All
far
right.
ahead, sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay. Question number four. How did the assistant manager's action affect the level of conflict in the resolution of the conflict?
One more
Well, it
time. That
definitely,
went into one ear and out the other.
Okay. How did the assistant manager's actions affect the level of conflict and the resolution of the conflict?
Because as assistant managers, you're supposed to be where your manager can't be and pick up where she lacks. So if they're afraid, you can't be in a leadership position and afraid to speak up or afraid to talk to someone
mhm,
and let them know, you're wrong. Wrong is wrong, regardless of if you're a tech or whatever. If you see wrong, speak up. And them being afraid of what exactly did it say? They're afraid. The assistant managers may be afraid of some members and therefore weren't comfortable
mhm,
confronting them about their inappropriate behaviors. That in itself is unacceptable.
No,
mhm,
that's not a good leader.
No, it's not.
I don't want anyone lead me that's scared to tell me when I'm doing something wrong. That's not
mhm.
acceptable.
Nobody's leading. That was the problem. Nobody was leading because clearly Isabel thought her assistants were handling it, and they weren't. So it's just, I guess the nurses just leading themselves.
Mhm.
Mm.
All right, and then going into our final question. If you were Isabella, how would you have handled the conflict situation and mediated? I'm sorry, I can't even read. Hmm.
We don't have enough
If you were
time for
Isabella,
that.
how would you have handled the huh?
Yeah, I think going back to what Cassie said earlier, I don't think in that role I would have allowed it to get to that point. Like she was new to the unit, she had this great idea to initiate self-scheduling, but the process of self-scheduling just wasn't the, especially not thinking ahead to 4 months later when it's holiday time. So I think if
Hmm.
had the whole self-scheduling process been more defined, then it wouldn't have gotten this far.
Yeah, it had
Okay.
no structure to it. It was just like, here you go, sign yourselves up, it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
Outside
Okay.
of the
I think,
seniority.
got you. I think here, mine kind of, Cassie, we've been together for a while. You know, always got a story. So this kind of like reminds me when I became a nurse in one of the units that I worked on. My very first job was tele, and when I first went to this job, I had a preceptor. Her name was Lisa, and Lisa was very mean, and she was always a bully. And her goal was to make all of her preceptors cry. I think you guys probably maybe read this in one of my discussion posts. But basically, I can't even come up with the words to just really describe this person. But her job, well, she felt that her job was pretty much just to make you miserable at work. And everyone that she precepts, she made cry except me. And it's only because I would never allow her to really get up under my skin, or I wouldn't allow her to let her know how much she was really irritating me. I guess I would say it that way. Now, when I went home to my sister, I cried. But as long as I was at work, I would never say anything because I felt like I had to get through it, and this was just her personality and it was just something that I had to accept. And even our senior leaders, like our educator and our manager, they knew that Lisa was a bully, but yet they still let her precept it. So somewhere down the line, um, it was time for me to come off orientation. And one day she looked at me and she said, Pam, she said, I never made you cry. And I was like, why would I? And I'm trying to like play this strong person, like, yeah, I got the upper hand on you. But at that time, she was also going through a lot of things personally. So in the end, she ended up breaking down and crying to me. And she was like, Pam, you're stronger than what I thought. Can make my preceptors cry, but I mean, my preceptees cry. But she said, for some odd reason, she said, I just couldn't get to you. And I told her, I said, it's not the fact that you didn't get to me. I said, because you really did. I just didn't allow you to let you know that you got to me.
Yeah.
I had the job and I had an obligation to my patients, and my patient was more important than what she was trying to do. So I guess just looking back in the role of Isabella, as far as her implementing the zero policy, I'm kind of like skimming through some of the stuff that I checked off. As far as her implementing the zero policy and implementing like the leadership competencies and having them to meet with her on a regular basis and reminding them of their responsibilities and how to resolve conflict because she didn't want any more crisis. I think that was a good part. I mean, a good that was good on her behalf because it allowed her to, I guess, create some camaraderie in her unit. Increase the morale. And even though some of the new nurses were already leaving at this time, it was nothing that she can do to get them back. She can save her unit for future nurses that were coming in by saying to the older nurses that were still there that, hey, if you don't do this, then you're going to be terminated.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
one
think
thing,
overall, go ahead, Tony. I'm
I'm sorry, one
sorry.
thing that you mentioned, Pam, about how in your position now, your manager, every once in a while, she'll come in and check in on you guys. How was your shift last night? I think if Isabella was more present with her staff, then she
mhm.
might have been aware of the situation prior to people resigning or requesting transfers.
I agree.
So maybe a little more presence, checking in with the staff. How are things going? How are you doing? Do you need anything? May have prevented this to, going so far.
Yeah, I agree.
I think overall, handling it and nipping it in the bud, she did an excellent job. I think her main problem was being new to the unit and it went way too far before she, did start to get a hold of the situation.
Gotcha. Oh, my phone is going to down you guys too. Hopefully, I'll make it through. Um, it's always funny when you look at these stories and you look at lateral violence or you hear about them because, like, just thinking about like even the discussion post that we did today about the toxicity in the workplace. Um, you just think about like the examples that you have to give, and I don't know if you guys have ever experienced like doctors that throw stuff around the units and have temper tantrums because things are not going their way. Like I have a doctor here that I work with that is exactly that way, and anytime it's a stressful situation, I mean, we're all stressed out, and he just starts rattling things off. You can never catch the orders that he's saying, and then you'll be doing one thing, and then he'll say, "No, stop that. Do this. This is more important." And it just goes on and on and on and on and on until finally he gets to the end and he can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Once he gets to the point that he feels that, okay, I'm okay, I can turn this over to the next doctor, then he's okay and he's calm. But as long as he's under pressure, no.
Wow.
And him, he's a PA, so he's not a doctor, but he's a PA. So, and he's been a PA for about 22 years, but even still, he gets flustered in emergency situations. And it's frustrating for all of the staff under him because, we're trying to figure out what is he thinking, what does he want us to do, and how can we still manage to do our job effectively, knowing that he's, mad about something, but trying to get through it, especially in life-saving situations. So, I don't know. Tony, what do you work?
I work in ambulatory urgent care.
Okay, urgent care. Okay.
Yeah.
Girl, you pull some long hours.
Yeah, yes, about 14 and a half. 14 and a half.
You go right ahead.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you guys see some wild things in there, especially like conflict wise, maybe ambulatory care. Um, that's more outpatient, right? So maybe you have patients that come in that, hey, I'm expecting to be here short time and right out the door, and that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Well, my phone is 5% now, and any minute it's going to power down. I hope that we made it to our 20-minute threshold. If we didn't, Miss Davis, blame me. I'm so sorry.
I think we came pretty close to 20 minutes.
Yeah, I said no more than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess this is the end. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll send you guys the link.
Okay.
Bye.